thank you for returning once again. So today we are going to look at chair, but not the pose, not a stress now. We are looking at a chair. We're going to look at how props can assist us, and this is not a cheat. There is possibly a feeling through yoga or people that want to push themselves further, and that's not something we should aim to do, is that props are cheating, and that is very, very far from what they can do for us. Props can give us assistance, they can give us support, they can enable deeper relaxation and opening, but also they can give us accessibility. They can allow us to move into a pose that we may struggle with, or give us confidence to start evolving into a posture that we don't feel quite ready just yet. Or we might just not be feeling strong enough. We may suffer from a bad back. We might be recuperating. Or we just might not have the dimensions physically to access some postures that a chair can give us. And when you think of all of those things, how can that be cheating? So we're going to look at some really normal postures that we may feel uncomfortable in if we attempt them on the floor. But by using a chair, we're not cheating. We're coming into that pose at a different angle. And that's all we need to do, is look at things in a different direction. And sometimes that can allow us to understand a bit deeper and to also acknowledge what we are capable of, what our body may not be capable of, and also acceptance. And acceptance is surely the most important thing when dealing with ourselves and our own physical body. How many times do we feel frustrated that we can't necessarily reach something because it's high above us and we have to get some steps to stand on it, or we can't quite bend down and tie our own shoelaces up? Not every one of us can do that, but not every one of us takes it so hard. And that is where we have to understand that the ego is taking over and allowing the ego to disappear and to dissipate and quieten the monkey mind. Achata vritti nirodha allows us to accept the self we really are. And surely that's more important than being able to tie your shoelaces in a perfect forward bend. So let's have a look at some really simple start-off postures, and we'll evolve to a couple of little tricky ones that personally we may not be quite full of balance to do on some days, and some days they might seem like a piece of cake. But by using this, it might take the fear, the doubt, all that ability to tell ourselves off, which we don't need. It's not important. It definitely isn't a constructive way of moving forward. So, any chair, make sure it's a chair you feel comfortable in. It's sturdy, it's not broken, it has 4 legs, and it fits you. And that's the important thing. And whether you are an adult, teenager or child, please ensure you are using the chair that fits your dimensions. So let's go. So, I would always recommend using it on a mat, because as you are standing around it, you're going to make sure that you need not to have a slippable surface. The chair is going to give you support, but your ground needs to as well. So we're going to do something really, really simple. We're going to do a forward fold. But we're not going to use the back, we're going to sit down. Now by doing the forward fold, the one thing with an intense forward fold is closing the gap between the belly and the thigh. And for some of us it's just not possible without bending our knees. Our hamstrings may just be too tight. We might have a longer forward body and a shorter leg. We just might not have that hip rotation that allows us to enter that frame, that actual shape. But this is where we need to be kinder to ourselves. By sitting down, we've already closed the gap. And by folding over the thigh, we have that contact. But what we need to make sure we're doing is folding over the thigh in the correct way. So if we just sat here and folded over our thighs, we're hunching, we're not making sure that the hips are grounded, and we're also just literally lying on top of the thighs, and we can all do that. We can do it in an armchair, we can do it on our sofa, we can do it in our car if we choose. But by making sure that our hips and our back are against the back of the chair so our posture is good, our shoulders are rolled back, we need to make sure that we are rolling forward from our hip like we would if we were standing. So you can place the thumbs on the creases of the hips, and we've all got them. It doesn't matter the abundance or lack of how we're built. We all have a hip crease. So by placing the thumbs on the hip crease, we sit upright so the back comes slightly away from the chair, and we're using the spine. And we are rolling forward. We're not concaving out, we're not curving back. The spine is working for us, and the hinging of the hips is still being activated, even though we're not standing and legs are straight. And by coming forward, you will see that the belly comes into contact before the chest, then the chest, and then we can allow the hands to drop and they can place by the feet. If that's not comfortable, they can place on the feet or on the shin, but no gripping. And don't just let the shoulders sink. You need to try and make sure that we're allowing the body to have contact between the belly and the thigh. And by doing this, we're allowing the lower back, the hips, and the hamstrings to all be activated and start opening. And by softening the neck, we can allow a very, very similar action to our intense forward fold without intensity. And by allowing the breast to come in, the body starts to soften and the back begins to expand. So we're going to come out this very gently. We're just going to roll ourselves up, trying to hinge from the hips as best we can without curling the back or sliding the hands up the legs. It's still a very similar gesture to our standing pose. And now we're going to do another one. Normally we do this lying on the ground, but if we just can't access the floor, we've got choices. So there is another pose we can do called wind releasing pose, or supine knee to chest, where we bring single leg into the chest. Again, it's a hip flexor release by opening the front of the leg, but what it's also doing is activating the lower back, the hamstrings as well, and starting to open up the lower part of the body by being supported by the floor without putting stress on any of the spine. So by doing this, we can simply bring the knee up. By doing that, you might think, right, well, we're quite hunched here and it's not very comfortable. So we have a couple of choices. We can bring the heel closer into the buttock and expand the leg out. And yeah, you're going to get thigh burn here because you're flexing the foot. You can point the foot or you can flex the foot, whatever's working for you. But the base of the chair is supporting the back of your thigh, which is taking some of the pressure off of the hamstring and the lower back. But what it's also doing is allowing the thigh to be activated, particularly the quad, without you starting to feel tight or uncomfortable. You're going to feel thigh burn here. But what you're also doing is allowing the body just to start opening up. And we can do this in a standing version too, with our knee towards our chest. But if we again can't access that height of knee coming towards the chest with the leg standing on the ground, because we just don't have that availability at the moment, then we can look at this option too. And you're still creating an activation in the hip and the hinging action without causing too many stresses upon the lower back, particularly if you suffer from sciatica, lower back issues, or you have any issues with your thighs and knees at the time. Now, straining the leg at the front is just too much for you. Keeping the knee bent and the foot on the floor, it's absolutely fine. But let's look at another version of this. Let's look at the standing version. So we're going to swap legs. And again, it's simple. And we have two options here. We can hold the back of the chair from the back of the chair if your balance is not quite feeling comfortable at the moment. Or you can stand. So if If you haven't got the confidence to bring the knee to the chest because your balance just isn't quite right at the moment, you can bring the knee to the base of the chair. The knee's at a 90-degree angle, which is perfect. It doesn't have to be up here by the chest, but this base leg is grounded into the floor. You can activate the thigh. It can be strong and supportive without you causing any strain by bringing it further, which can be aggravated to a lower back issue at any point. If you feel that you still haven't got quite that balance, go around to the back. So we can come round to the back. We have two choices. So we can have one hand on the hip and we can bring the knee up. And we have the other hand on the back of the chair to allow us to gain some balance. And by using the back of the chair as a slight prop, without putting weight on the back of the chair, we have a confidence in our balance. By keeping the hand on the hip, we're allowing the hips to be balanced and even too, which is important. We don't want any twisting or hyper extension to aggravate any further injury or our balance, which is key when we're trying to recuperate. So by keeping the knee on the back of the chair with a slight tension, the other hand can hold to the back of the chair and give us some further confidence. So, there's a couple of options. And now let's go for something a little bit deeper. So, downward dog. It is not everyone's favourite pose. Many people don't feel that they can access it properly, so they don't feel like they're accomplishing anything. They can feel like a failure. And that's not a healthy attitude in any part of our life. If we're trying to do yoga and we want to do it to benefit ourselves, whether it's physically or mentally, we definitely don't need to be punishing ourselves for our feeling of incapability. That is defeating the object. Yoga is about balance. It's union. And the Sanskrit word yoga does mean union, the coming together. So our body, our mind and our spirit need to be on equal level. They're not always like that, and we will get used to feeling that and understanding it. But at the most important times, we need to try and create the balance so that we can be ourselves. So downward dog, two choices again. You can use the back of the chair, or you can use the front seat. It depends on how your accessibility to downward dog is. Simple downward dog, using the back of the chair, is placing the hands on the back, walking the legs back so we have that angle of downward dog, and allowing the head to come between the arms. So we have the inverted leg, similar to a downward dog. The feet are flat on the floor, particularly useful if you're someone that struggles to get your heels down, which is not a criteria. But some people, again, feel that they are not capable because their heels do not reach the mat. That is not your fault. It is not that you are not able. It could be you have tight calves, short hamstrings, and you have just got a dimension that doesn't allow these things. Accessibility is not always obvious. So our downward dog again, allowing the head to come between the arms. Don't let it drop. It's not about sinking the neck. We're going to cause strain there. So allow the head to settle between the arms. Gently rest on the back of the chair. Don't grip. You're adding tension by doing that. So allow the body to come in to a nice angle. And just allow the back of the legs to start feeling like they're opening up. Try not to sink the torso either. Let's try and keep it in one nice line along the arms with the head. And this can take a little while to get used to the shape, particularly if we try to do downward dog on the mat. But try and see if you can record yourself to get your posture in a better way. You can always have a mirror by the side of you, record yourself, and then you might be aware of where you just need to slightly adjust. Or we look at this a different way. So let's turn the chair around. And let's place the hands on the seat. And this is where it's important to have a non-slip surface, your mat. You may feel that you are slightly going to slip. Having the mat there saves you feeling that slight unnervedness. So we're going to place our hands, they can be on the seat, they can be at the edge. Depends on how your downward dog is. If your hands are wide, and again having arms wider in a downward dog can actually make your posture a little bit more accessible. So play around with it, feet hip width apart, and place your hands how you would normally have them. And then come into the shape that you feel is closer to the downward dog you have been trying. Is that more comfortable? Are you dropping your chest again? Allow yourself to play around with it, and you will feel when you're in the right place. If you feel you can go deeper, you could try the hands at the side of the chair, if that feels comfortable. And just see where your posture is leading you. Okay, so that's using the chair as something to lean upon. Let's see about using the chair as a support in a different way. So we're going to do Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2 with the chair. Now this, you might think, is absolutely impossible, but not quite. So, basically our Warrior 2 is astride, the front leg turned and the knee bent. Now, in front of the chair, looking at it that way, we would just have to pull the chair forward, and we have got a Warrior 2. Please don't enter onto the chair like this. It's just a demonstration. I don't want anyone trying to contact me saying that I've had a bit of a mishap with the chair. Please take your time. But it's just a demonstration of how you could possibly get into it. So, it's a great way of supporting the front knee, particularly if you're having knee issues, you're recuperating. If you have very tight inner groins as well, this is a lovely way of starting to learn the posture without feeling that your feet are slipping, that you haven't got correct leg strength, and that you just feel like you need to start somewhere without being too intense for your own person. So, first foot, front foot facing forward, knee bent over the ankle. Looking at the back foot, the heel is angled in, and the front heel is in line with the middle of the back foot or the back heel. Again, working with your own physical dimensions. Now we are in Warrior 2 without too many adjustments, jiggery-pokery or fiddling around. A chair and a Warrior 2. Bring that front leg in to make sure that our positioning is correct. Again, if your back leg or your front leg or the groin is feeling uncomfortable, just manoeuvre yourself along. You could have long legs, lucky you. So you may find that this is actually a great way of starting to come into your Warrior 2 before you attempt free form on the mat. Always make sure that you, again, whether you're using the prop or you're on free form, that you are making sure your alignments are correct, to correct yourself in the healthiest way possible. So our knee is over our ankle, and our back foot is turned slightly in at a 45-degree angle, and our back is straight. Our hips, they're not twisting forward, which is in a Warrior 1 position, but they are at the front, facing the long edge of the mat, and you could now go into your Warrior 2 arms. And by being supported in the chair, you can enjoy the posture a little bit more. You can start feeling confident in it. You can start applying strength through the legs and engaging them so that you can build the strength up through the body too. So we're going to swap, go in the opposite direction. So you can do two things. You could switch and just turn your legs that way. But let's try and get onto the chair in a better way. We're going to stand up. We're going to turn that back leg forward. Bend the front knee. And then we're going to lower ourselves on. And then we're going to adjust. So, front leg, over the knee, over the ankle, back leg extended. Just because we're on a chair, don't not extend the back leg. This is the shape, this is the posture. It's not Warrior 2 on a chair, slightly relaxing. If we're going to try and attempt the pose with a prop, make sure we're going to the pose with the prop. Extend that back leg, check that the back arch is opposite the front heel, so we've got that alignment all the way along. Our body is upright, we're not slouching, we're nice and strong, and you can feel thighs engaged, groin is open, horizontal. The past is behind us. The present is in our immediate centre, and our future is ahead of us. Okay. So, looking at it in a different way, that was definitely something that maybe you weren't expecting, but easy to understand and easy to attempt if you want. So I hope the chair is useful for you. I hope you try at least one of them. Maybe try a pose that you are struggling with a chair yourself, and have success. Either way, please have fun. Please take care. Please be happy. Thank you very much for coming back.